So welcome to Alive. I'm so glad that you guys have joined me today. I have the privilege of interviewing someone from my church. And he is a member of the praise band. He plays the drums very well, I might add. He is married to Kaylee, our director of children and family ministries at the church. He also has 3 beautiful daughters. He is a girl dad, totally 100%, and they are all absolutely adorable. And he is a lieutenant in the Florida Fish and Wildlife. So it's pretty exciting. And I will say this, I feel like I have watched him grow in his faith tremendously since I've been here. So I want to welcome today to Alive Garrett Mendelson. So welcome.
Thank you.
Are you like super excited and not nervous at all?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
good.
Just
That's
a little. Yeah.
A little nervous. So to kind of break the ice a little bit, you on occasion visit our preschool, right? In your like role as fish and wildlife.
Right.
And so I heard that you brought an alligator, and then I heard that you caught the alligator.
Yes.
That morning.
It's my go-to for when you have a bunch of kids. When you talk about what you do, it just kills the time and everybody wants to hold it. Well, most people.
They want to hold, wants to. So like I want to get to how you caught it. Like, do you like have a trap or do you get in the water?
No, I don't get in the water. It's a fishing pole with a certain type of hook on it.
Okay.
And you basically catch the gator out of the water. Sometimes you're lucky they're already on land.
If they're on land, what do you do?
We have catch poles, which basically you can hold the gator down.
Oh, then you put it around their neck or something? Or what do you do?
Basically. And
Okay.
there's a way you could do it to keep their mouth closed. But yeah, practice.
It's our crocodile hunter right here.
Exactly.
Except they're not crocs, but
Yeah.
no, I think that's really cool. I love that. I remember talking to you one day and you said that you know all the greatest places to go and kind of where to hang out and be quiet.
Yeah,
with
it's nice.
God. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I need to get those places from you. You'll probably see me there if I get that. But so we've kind of passed or crossed paths for a while in discussing your life, and you said, maybe I want to share my story, and we talked about it, and then it kind of went away, and not because we weren't open to it, but you got busy, I got busy, and then it just wasn't like priority. Then it came back again, and then finally we're like, let's do this thing. I think you were the last one who I'm ready. So I take that as God is saying, do this
right
now. So I'm real excited that you're here, and you do have a compelling story. And I want you to begin, if you would, because I like to give people a background of what your childhood was like so they understand where you are and how far you've come.
Right. So I grew up in Oviedo. I had a good life, grew up in a neighborhood, played baseball since I was 4 years old, had a lot of friends in the neighborhood, a lot of friends at school, and literally probably most weekends, most weeks, I was playing baseball through elementary school, into middle school, all the way through high school. I grew up, we never went to church. We never really talked about God. It just wasn't a part of our life. My dad is Jewish background, and my mom was a Catholic. And when they both got married, it's actually interesting. I never really knew my mom's parents due to that marriage. And so, that was my...
Wait, you never knew your mom's
my
parents
grandparents
because
on my
they
mom's
weren't
side.
happy that...
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they completely stop talking to her?
Basically, yes.
So you still don't,
No.
Wow. Okay. That's super interesting.
Right. And we were close with my grandparents on my dad's side.
Were they practicing Jews? Did they practice their faith?
No.
Okay.
No.
Were they Jews by their nationality or?
Yes,
okay.
Pretty much.
Okay. Where did they live? Did they live around here too? Or?
My grandma lived in Boca. My grandfather died when I was pretty young.
Okay.
But they both lived down there, yeah.
So your father was Jewish, but he did not practice his faith. Your mother was Catholic. Did she practice her? So,
no.
Okay. So neither one of them. So you knew they had a religious background, but you never went to church or anything like that.
Right. The only thing I remember growing up is my grandma would mention God, and that was about it. But I would see my friends going to church. A lot of people go to church, talk about it. I was scared to go to church because I've never been. So
I mean, that's a really good lesson, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like to know that people are actually scared to go to church because it's foreign and unknown. It is a weird thing to go, I don't just want to walk in and what's going to happen is something crazy. And there's a lot of things that you can see online or hear. Yeah. So depending on the church. So that's really interesting. So you played baseball. You also said when I was talking to you earlier that you kind of had two separate lives a little bit.
I did. When I was in middle school, I got into music and I played guitar. And I had like two different groups of friends. I had my sports friends, and then I had the group of friends where we were in a band. And basically, growing up, my mom said, if you're going to be in a band, we'll have the drum set here so you guys can play at our house, which thinking back now, that's kind of insane to want all the noise at the house.
Yeah.
But probably just so she could make sure I'm okay.
Absolutely.
But
that's
yeah,
what that
so
was.
we would just come to the house and we had, a cover band where we would just play like screamo music.
Did you play out or did you just at your house play?
We played at our house. We played at like the 8th grade barbecue. We played at, I think, Winter Springs High School one time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
you had baseball and you had music. Those were kind of your go-to. You said that your dad was like all into your baseball and was there at every.
My dad coached me when I was younger, and then as I got older, we played on travel teams, and he was just very involved.
Yeah. So what happened to baseball?
So when I was in high school, freshman, sophomore year, sometime early in high school, I started getting injured. And I was with I played competitively my whole life. I was like to think I was pretty good, but I just kept getting injured, basically. I never really played a full season because I had 4 knee surgeries. So through those knee surgeries and everything, I realized that I'm not going to be able to play sports anymore. Yeah.
So that was kind of your dream. Did you want to be a professional player?
Yeah, that was my first dream for sure.
So when you went through the surgeries, what were the surgeries? They were like reconstruct or
I had
torn.
I tore my ACL. I had that repaired. I dislocated my kneecap and broke it, and that was the most painful one.
Oh,
yeah, and basically it was like overcompensating. So it was 2 on each knee.
Wow.
I would come back and try to go back to baseball too soon, and then I hurt the other side.
Oh,
yeah.
So then, you said that because of that, you got addicted to painkillers.
Right. Yep. I was prescribed heavy and high dose of painkillers for a long time and then became reliant on it. And it was like the perfect storm. My parents, when I was in high school, got divorced. So I was no longer playing baseball and then relying on painkillers.
Wow. So your parents get divorced. You have all these surgeries. Your dream dies. You're hooked on painkillers.
Yes.
Wow, that's a lot. And then you still have your band.
Right.
But the band is kind of...
Yeah, they've gone their own separate way as well. And a few of them we just lost touch. Never really hung out anymore. And I basically just quit music at that point. So
tell me what it's like to be in a situation where the doctor has prescribed you medicine that's very strong. I mean, that you just continue taking because you're like, this is what you do when you have surgery. Mm-hmm. When did you know that you were dependent on them?
When I started looking elsewhere besides what I was being prescribed.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that's when you realize you have a problem.
So you went to the doctor, you would run out, and you're like, I've got to get... So what was because I don't know the feeling. What is the feeling like? Are you scared that you're going to hurt or be in pain or, what were you looking for?
Honestly, I don't even know. Eventually your body just becomes physically dependent on it. And that's really, you just try to take the medicine so you feel normal.
Yeah. So how long of a period of time would you say you were actually addicted or dependent upon?
Several years.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I look at you now and go, there's no way.
Yeah. And it was very interesting. I was able to like maintain like my normal life through it as well. I went to college, you know.
Yeah.
Like I'm very blessed where I'm at now.
Yes. You probably recognize it in people.
Yes.
When did you break free? What happened?
I knew what I wanted to do for a job, and I knew what was right, and I saw the path with some other people, what happens if you go down that road. And honestly, I have good parents that basically, you know, made me as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
did you go to like rehab or something, or
no? I never actually went to rehab. You know, I talked to someone, went to a different doctor and therapist and all that stuff. So,
do you think that if you hadn't suffered so much through your parents' divorce, losing your dreams, losing your friends even, that you would have been as inclined to take the medication for that period of time? Or
I don't know. Honestly, I'm not sure. I feel like, I'm not totally sure.
Yeah. But that's an interesting thing that a lot of people can continue living their lives, doing all the stuff. I
was a functioning.
Yeah.
So
functioning. And then you're like, I think it's really good because you said that your passion was baseball, but you obviously had another passion.
Right. Yeah.
Which was the outdoors and
yep. All through high school. Yeah. That was definitely my goal. And I went to college knowing that's what I wanted to do.
I love that. So how, and Florida too, like, you know, it's like so nasty in the summer, but, side note, do you get bit by mosquitoes all the time or do they hate?
I do.
Do you?
Actually, funny story. Yesterday in the fellowship hall while we were eating, I had a tick crawling on my arm. Oh. And I used one of the knives because you have to cut it in half. And
yeah. You're like, I've been outside all day.
Yes. So that happens a lot.
That's funny. Wow. So how in the world did you, I don't know when you married Kaylee in the whole...
So I've known Kaylee since 5th grade,
okay.
But I always tell her I thought I was too cool for her. She was like the perfect girl, never did anything wrong, and just like somebody that I knew where I was at in life, and it wouldn't have worked out then. So it definitely worked out when it was supposed to.
Yeah, that's really cool because I love Kaylee. She's so smart, so good at what she does.
And then we started like dating once I got out of the academy because we spent 7 months in Tallahassee.
Okay.
Once I got back, I knew I was ready to, I have my real job. I have career. I'm ready to settle down fully. Yeah.
Aw. So how in the world did you end up in church?
So my first initial bringing to church was a girlfriend I had in high school. Her family went to actually the Carillon church.
Okay.
And I would just go there. That was my first, time ever going to church. And I would just go and listen. And basically that was my introduction into Jesus and God and Christianity and what the church is. So I was starting to pray through when I was having issues with, my dependency on painkillers. And I thought I had a relationship with God. I thought I was a Christian at that point. I just felt like now that I go to church, I'm a Christian. Mm-hmm. That was my mindset, and everything will be okay. So yeah.
No, I think that's a really, really great distinction because I think there's a lot of people who go to church and think they're a Christian. I just had to talk about it. I talk about it all the time, even in the Alpha course, because you can go to a Baptist church, a Methodist church, a Catholic church. You can go to a lot of different places, and you can think you're a Christian. But if you've not surrendered your life to Christ, and you don't have the Holy Spirit, it's about having the Holy Spirit. Then you're not a Christian.
Right.
You're religious.
Yeah. Right. And that's what it ended up being. I would just identify I go to church. Yeah, I'm a Christian now. I'm one of these people.
Yeah.
And I thought I was. And that's what's kind of funny. Even I distinctly remember Kaylee's dad asking me when I asked him to marry Kaylee, he asked me that question, like, are you a Christian? Are you going to raise your children that way? And I was like, yeah. Like, why would he even ask me that? And I always think back to that now, and it's like I thought I was even then, and then I didn't realize till later. I wasn't there yet. I didn't really fully surrender myself and have a relationship with Jesus.
I love the way that the Holy Spirit works, though. This is why one of the reasons I love the Methodist tradition is that we believe that the grace of God draws us to repentance. So to the point where, like, he's good to us, our until we turn, and then we finally realize he's been there all along. And we call that prevenient grace, the grace that goes before and draws us. So even though you weren't necessarily saved or converted or born again, whatever, you were having an experience where you were being drawn to that. So how did you finally surrender, or what happened?
I got really sick, and I don't even remember exactly when, but several years back from COVID. And I remember being at work, doing my normal thing. And it was the first time ever I looked at the person I was with, and I was like, I got to go home. And I went home, and I'm like, I'm really sick. And Kaylee, took the girls, I think it was just May and Millie at the time, took them to her mom's to stay. And I was just laying there, and I remember feeling like I was dying. My sister is in the medical field. She's a nurse anesthetist. So I'm texting her, asking her what I should do. And then I remember walking outside, and I was wearing just shorts and no t-shirt, and I called 911 because I was going to pass out. And then I have a security camera, and you see me actually kind of pass out and lay down on the driveway.
Oh my goodness.
And then I went in the ambulance to the hospital and stayed there for 14 days. And I was in a room that was about the size of a king-size bed.
The hospitals were really packed, weren't they?
Very packed. I was in a room like that. When they walked in, they were wearing the Ebola suits,
gosh.
And nobody knew anything or what to tell me. So, yeah.
It kind of transports me back to those days of how, and I wasn't in the hospital, but all of the things that were going on at that time.
Right.
So there you are. Your family can't see you then.
No.
Do you have your phone?
I had my phone, and I was able to talk. People would reach out to me, and nobody really knew what to say. And, Kaylee kept being the one to talk to the nurses and doctors to try to figure out. And she also was sick herself, but she didn't get to that point. And I remember a nurse walking in. It was at midnight or something. She walked in. I was day 11 or 12. And she was like, if your oxygen doesn't get above 88%, you're going to go on a ventilator. And I was like, well, that's, normally not a good thing. So I remember she said I had to lay on my stomach for, 24 hours with the little heart monitor on me. And that was where my true relationship with Jesus began.
I need Jesus now.
Honestly, I didn't know what else to do. And I realized all I had to do. And it was from there on, I started paying attention to all of the blessings and all of the things that God is presenting in front of me in life. And it just went from there. That was my moment of breaking down. And I remember Kaylee, she's just been that person. She's been a Christian her whole life. She's had a relationship with Jesus. And she was, really doing something for me then, with what she was saying and what we would talk about. So
did you go on a ventilator?
I did not. I laid on my stomach for 24 hours. And when I first started listening to worship music.
There you go. That's what got you to do. Wow. So you're listening to worship music. You're taking it all in, because worship music is like prayer.
Right.
It's if you don't know what to pray, put on some praise, and there was a song. Wasn't there a song you sent me? Oh, no, I can't remember the name of it. I think it was right after that time. It was so pretty. Now I'm derailing this, but I was wondering if it was one of the songs that you would listen to while you were laying there. So did you tell them that you weren't going to go on the ventilator?
Yeah. I basically said, no, I know that that's probably not the right thing to do. And they're basically saying, well, you're going to have to. And I'm like, well, this is weird. I'm in a hospital room. I really, I'm going to make my own decision, but I also want to do what they think I'm going to live. So it was a weird spot. I never went on it, and I told them I didn't want to because I just knew that wasn't the right answer.
Yeah. And how many people went on a ventilator at that time?
A lot.
And never.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like you needed your lungs to be working on their own to get through it.
Yep.
And you're so young. You're younger than you are now.
And that's what the doctors kept telling me. And I was like, oh, thank you guys. They're like, well, this is an anomaly. Typically, someone like you, we're not in this situation. I'm like, okay, thank you. Here we are.
Here we are. I'm not happy to be the anomaly on this one.
Yeah.
So you lay on your stomach for 24 hours. You start listening to worship music.
Yep.
And then after 24 hours, what happened?
It started to slowly go up. I got above 88%, and they ended up letting me go home when my oxygen, I think, was at 93%. I think normal is like 98 to 99.
Okay.
And you definitely don't want to stand up fast when you're in the 80s. Like you can pass out.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a slow process. I think it was 14 total days. I went home, but it wasn't like I was going home healthy.
Yeah.
I went home. I remember walking to the end of the driveway to get the mail, and I had to go back inside and sit down.
Wow.
And it was frustrating because, we have little kids that don't understand what that is. Like, hey, Dad can't play right now.
Right.
So, yeah. It was a process. I lost my voice completely.
Yes. We were talking about that. So just so everyone knows, I remember seeing you, because we were all praying for you. We were just like, how could this even be happening? So many weird things happened during that year or whenever that was. And you came walking into the fellowship hall, and it was just like, Garrett's here, and you came over to me, and I really didn't know you. I mean, I knew a little bit, but I really didn't know you. And you had this raspy voice and said, "Do you need a drummer?" And I was like, "What? Do you?" And I said, "Yes. Do you play?" "I used to." And I was like, "Okay, you're in." You just tell me.
Yeah.
So did you make that decision to play because?
So. I was a couple weeks after I got home. I was doing better, but I still didn't have a voice. And we came to church on Sunday, and it would just happen to be a Sunday when there was no drummer. And I remember sitting there thinking, you can't have like praise and worship and live other instruments and not have drums. It's not the same. I was like, I used to have a drum set, even though I played guitar. I'll just say I play drums and see if they need someone. And I just thought I'd fill in. And I remember like, okay, I have a job that's, takes a lot. It's a crazy schedule. I'll just say I could maybe do once a month or possibly just try every other month. I remember saying that.
Yeah.
And then I remember after playing, it'd be like, okay, I might be able to do once a month. I might be able to do twice a month. So it was just, yeah.
Well, you're an excellent drummer. And I say excellent because, there are so many reasons that I can say, but one of the reasons is because I can tell that you are feeling the music, and it's funny because I love like the Psalms, and they talk about the drums and the, all these rhythmic instruments being played. And I think, in my simple mind, that in heaven there's going to be some unbelievable drumming going on.
Yeah.
I really, really do. Because the Bible's, David was clear, when he was writing. There's just something about the beat of a drum. So yeah, I'm like always, I was thrilled. And God works, and he does work in mysterious ways. And it's fascinating to me that you played drums in high school. It was a good experience, but then it ended up like kind of leading you probably down.
Well, that's what's interesting. So when I stopped playing with the band, and I had to stop listening to music, really. I had to stop listening to music I was listening to because it was not good for me. It just wasn't good music to begin with. And and I was like, well, I guess I won't ever do that again. Pretty much mindset on it. So when I was able to fast forward to now and fall in love with, playing worship music on drums, it was like, wow, I never thought that I would be able to enjoy music again. So
it's interesting the effect that music has, whether it's positive or negative, and not that this is totally relevant to the discussion, but Lucifer had like, he was like a musical instrument, so it can be good or bad.
Right.
And so it's great to use your gift. And there's such great worship music now that I love it.
Right.
So it's amazing. Now, you got through, you got back, you're in church now, you healed. Did you ever fully recover, by the way, from COVID, or do you still have like the effects of it?
I'll have some random stuff here and there, but I've fully recovered. I remember going to a few doctors, lung doctors, and they put me through random tests, and I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Yeah. I felt like I'm young and healthy, and I was starting to get treated almost like a lab rat because there wasn't a lot of information on my age and what we're doing. So,
yeah.
But one of the doctors actually said that, and that was when I decided, okay, I'm going to stop doing that and
move on.
Yeah. So I'm fully recovered. I will have some random, like, if I get sick, sometimes I'll feel it. I had pneumonia a couple times, but.
Do you get bronchitis pretty easily?
I haven't.
Okay.
There's just I got pneumonia, I think, 2 times since COVID.
Yeah. They say once you get it, it's easier to get.
Yeah.
So was that in 2020 or was that the beginning of 2021? Do you remember when that was?
I want to say it was 2020.
Yeah.
It was 2021.
Okay. Because your girls, I don't know how old they.
Yeah, I don't really remember exactly.
Because that was, then you end up having another baby. So you had another massive event that happened in your life.
Yes.
Which was your father-in-law.
Right.
When was that? That was a couple years ago, wasn't it?
Yes. And it was between Christmas and New Year's. And basically that year, Kaylee's sister lives in North Carolina. That year, they didn't come down for Christmas. So we spent Christmas with Kaylee's parents. And after that, we went up to the mountains of Georgia where my mom lived. And they went to North Carolina to go see that side and do Christmas with them. And they were eating lunch or dinner, I think it was lunch, in like South Carolina. They lived right on the border. And we were actually driving home from my mom's. We had just hit the Florida line from Georgia, and we got a phone call from Kaylee's sister that her dad wasn't conscious on the floor. They called 911, and he ended up dying. And we had turned from right there and drove straight to North Carolina, and that changed the course of our lives immensely, obviously.
Yeah.
Unexpected at a restaurant.
Yeah, and you can't ever plan for it, even when someone's been sick. But it's a shock to the brain, and so it takes a long time to kind of move through the shock and then get into the grief. It's a weird process, and then there you are. Kaylee's always been the strong one,
right?
Did it change how you were as far as like your spiritual growth? Like, did you have to become?
Yeah, I basically did. I felt like I did. And she remained strong through the whole thing. But, she had to grieve and had to figure that out for herself. So
yeah,
I kind of felt it was my turn to be the strong one this time.
Yeah, because yes. Oh, and for the whole family too, because the whole family was probably I know they were in a complete state of shock and uproar, and it still affects. So has it been 2 or 3 years? 2?
Yeah, it's been 2.
A little bit over 2 years now. So it takes a long time to move through that.
Oh yeah.
You don't ever get over it.
Right.
You learn how to kind of cope with it. So you went through that. So now you had, COVID, you recover from that. Then you have this situation with your father-in-law. What has happened the most recently that's changed your walk with God?
Most recently was this past Christmas. It was a normal Christmas, and then all of a sudden, Maggie, she's not 2 yet. She was young. Kaylee, and this part of the story, I'm so thankful for. So we are pretty hardcore with our children and make them take naps in their crib. And for some reason, this one time, Kaylee decided to lay Maggie down in the bed with her to take a nap before we went to go see my mom. I went into the kitchen and I was doing the dishes. We're still in our pajamas. And Kaylee just like yells my name. I could tell it was not the normal, like just trying to get my attention. Something was wrong. And I ran into the room, and I just see Maggie. She's holding Maggie up like, Maggie. And I'm looking at her. I'm like, she's turning purple. She's not, like, it looked like she was dead or dying.
Because you're familiar.
Right. So through work, like I've seen, unfortunately, children drowned. I've seen, I've been in, there was different accidents. There's drownings that I've been involved in that not everybody gets to. And then the differences through work, it's my calling. I feel like my job, and I'm able to do it, and I'm able to be the person, like somebody has to do it. Mm-hmm. And it affects you, but you're able to work through at the moment. And I remember looking at Maggie like, I'm not going to be able to do this. I can't go into work mode right now. I'm her dad. And I just grabbed her from Kaylee, and I'm telling Kaylee, call 911. That's all I remember, is telling Kaylee to call 911 and then praying. Mm-hmm. And because there's like nothing, like she didn't need CPR, because every now and again she would be breathing, but it wasn't like a normal breathe. So I was just going in this goof loop, running around outside. I ran outside to like get fresh air. And
you had her with you?
I was holding Maggie, just trying to like do everything through work that I was trained, that I knew to do. But it was a different experience. It felt like 2 hours, but it was 5 minutes from when Kaylee, and she was freaking out herself. We had, May and Millie there, and they're 6 or at the time 6 and 4, or 6 and 5, yeah. And they were just processing it from that perspective, seeing us freaking out. We're trying to keep them calm, but we're also freaking out.
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
The ambulance comes, and she, comes back too. And it was crazy because I was a wreck, and Kaylee went in the ambulance, went to the hospital, and then I stayed at the house with the other girls until Kaylee's mom came so she could watch them. And I just remember Kaylee calling me, and you can hear Maggie in the background sounding normal again. So I'm like, what is going on? Like, nobody knows what happened. And so then we go to the hospital, the emergency room. She has a fever, and they're like, yeah, sometimes this happens. She's sick, and we're still freaking out. Like, we just had this event happen at the house. We thought she was dying. And so we literally signed the papers to discharge from the emergency room. And as Kaylee stands up so she could go, she had like throw up and everything all over her. When she could go change, it just happened again. And she just went limp again. And I'm like, this is not normal. So I'm yelling at the ER. The doctors come running in. I remember the nurse actually, like the one who's supposed to be there knowing what to do. I just remember her looking at us going, oh, no. And I'm like, no, like, you have got to be doing your job right now.
Yes,
please
don't
say oh no. And I just started praying there again, and I just knew it was going to be okay. Like she had her 2 seizures, where, like, if she would have had it in her crib, who knows? She could have choked. I think there's a reason that Kaylee laid down with her on the bed.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for that. And then the second one happening at the place where they were able to, while she was having a seizure, run the fluids through her and put all the monitors on her that she was refusing before that. So,
did they find out what was wrong?
They did some testing, and she went to the unit. I forget what the unit's called. But anyways, they said it was due to her having a fever, and the drastic change in temperature. So we got the news that it could never happen again, or it might happen several times again until she's 6.
Oh my goodness.
And we're like, okay, at least we know now what it is. Because the first time we didn't know what was going on. So
what did you learn about your faith in God in that
I
circumstance?
just learned that I like praying through everything. Praying is the first thing to do. Praying is what gets you through, and trusting and just being there and praying is what I never used to do. I used to want to do it, which is funny.
Yeah.
And now it's like my first go-to. Me and Kaylee talk about it all the time. Like going through a lot of the things that we've gone through, like I don't know how people do it without Jesus, because it is a complete, you always have that joy and peace even through everything. And I truly feel that now.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing.
I heard years and years ago, a friend of mine, when my husband and I were going through like a whole season of, I've talked about it, of no income, and I was really stressing out. And the guy who was a coach of our son's football team, I was telling him about it, and he said, "Are you trusting God?" And I was like, apparently not, He goes, "If you're trusting God, just trust God." That's what he asks. Whatever the outcome, trust God. And so the whole year for me was learning how to do that, learning how to trust God. And it didn't come easily for me. It came through sleepless nights and getting up and opening my Bible and reading the Bible out loud, and you said this, you said that, and I got to trust you. And this, taking my Bible and falling asleep with it, it becomes like, not that it's the Word.
Right.
It's God's life. And it changes how you live your life. And it sounds like that's what happened to you.
Definitely. Yeah.
Which is fantastic. Like, why does it take? Why does it take all this,
Yeah.
But it does. We have to learn to depend upon. Trusting God means depending upon God. And that's really hard for us to do.
Right.
I want to, you had something else really cool, and before we wrap up today, that I don't want to forget to talk about. And that is your dad.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what happened with him.
Yeah. So I remember, I would pray, and I would always have that one prayer like, well, that's not going to happen. I don't think that would happen. God just doesn't understand. And
for your dad.
Right.
Yeah.
For my dad, to know him and to and learn about it at the minimum and have a relationship. And so it's really awesome. We both got baptized together. And when we golf, pretty regularly, like once a month. And when I see him now, he's, with his friends at the same church, a family friend of his, and they just talk about the Bible and do Bible studies together. And it's the coolest thing in the world to see, because, most, you picture it going the other way, right. the dad teaching the son that. So it's awesome. And I'm just super proud that, for him and happy for him, because I've seen a huge change in him through this. Yeah. And it's just another miracle that you get to watch.
Well, and does he attribute any of that to you and your life?
Yeah. And he has told me that. And he has, his close friend from back when we were younger as well. And he just, now that's what we talk about. And it's just cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's recent. Like, you guys got baptized about a year ago, didn't you? Or
right.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I mean, I didn't want to forget that, because that's a huge blessing.
Oh, yeah.
You've had a lot of heartache, but you've had a lot of blessing too.
Yes, definitely.
If you could look back on your younger self, what would you say to your younger self?
Just, the only thing missing in my life, I remember when I was little, was Jesus, and was that peace and that, like, just being at peace. And I didn't have that, so there was always something missing. It didn't matter, I got straight A's. It didn't matter, I was great at sports. There was always that, when I would go to bed at night, peace missing. And I would just be like, you just need to get it now. and enjoy while you're young through your years. But I honestly wouldn't change anything, because I'm the type of person, I feel now, looking back, I needed to go through all that to get to where I am. Otherwise, I just wouldn't learn. I have to learn the hard way.
Yeah, right. Same here. I can look back now at my life and think about the things that I've gone through and go, I needed that to happen. I mean, honestly, for me, because my dad died when I was 24. And so when I look back, I mean, it took me a good while to see how it changed me and to see a positive side. I mean, it's hard to say that, but it's been many, many years. I mean, he died in 1990, so it was a long time ago. But the shift for me happened when he had been gone about 10 years. And I remember I would always for 10 years, because I was really close to my dad, when something good happened or bad, I just wanted to call my dad, And then one day I remember just thinking, I need to talk to the Lord about this. And it was like, wait a minute, the Lord is my heavenly Father. So it switched in my mind. It was just crazy. Yeah. So, I can see now that, God always wanted to be the one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So when you came to me and said you wanted to tell your story, just let's end on that. Why did you feel you wanted to tell your story?
Well, actually, I got involved with the youth some, and I remember going and sharing some of my story with the youth. And then I've been doing a Bible study recently where it's the topic that we're talking about. And I've always wanted to talk about, my story and my testimony could help someone else, and, how much it's benefited me to hear other people's story. So, doing the Bible study and getting that nudge and your reminder to me just made me want to come here and share the news.
I think that's perfect. And so in closing, I'll say this, so we're doing the life's choices and from the book Life's Healing Choices. And the last chapter, I'm closing out the whole series this week. And the last chapter is, let me think of how they called it, Recycling Our Pain. And I'm like, that's a very interesting title. But what he's saying is what we go through should become our story to others. And that is our gospel message. And I've always said, all these people who say you have to have all these verses memorized, and it's no, tell what God did for you.
Right.
And so this Sunday, you're going to hear that. But that is the gospel message, is sharing with others what Christ has done for you. And then, who Christ, you can get into who Jesus is and all that, but you start with your story.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness. I hope this inspires other people to call me and go, hey, I want to do that too.
Yeah.
So appreciate the time. Good having you today.
Thanks.